John Wick 4 it's getting really good reviews. The films make money. They're not giant billion-dollar blockbusters, but for the budget they have and what they make,
they kill it.
They definitely are very profitable movies for the studio. Keanu, it's
Keanu Reeves.
It's a role that's kind of built for him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's very gruff, former assassin dude who is dragged back in because they kill his dog.
Have they killed 4 dogs now?
No, not 4 dogs, but now he's trying to get to the last table is the plot of the 4th movie. It's over-the-top action films. And look, there is nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you just want to watch something that is that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Constantine, they have been rumors and conjecture about them making a sequel to the Keanu Constantine.
That's exciting. That was definitely my jam.
So here's the thing. That movie bombed.
Well,
it bombed.
It was the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was the early 2000s.
It wasn't really marketed as a comic book movie.
No,
it was marketed as like a horror supernatural movie.
And it had, the religious undertones and everything like that. But like at the end of the day, it's a comic book movie that could have easily made it into, the
DC, yeah. Yes. Now, so since Constantine bombed, it has developed a strong cult following. And there are a lot of people who really want to see him return as John Constantine.
Yeah. They have a lot of unanswered and left things that they put in the end of that movie, and I want answers.
So here's the thing. It does fit within what Gunn has announced as the structure of DC films going forward.
Right.
In that there will be basically 2 styles of film. There will be the DCU, which will be their interconnected universe, and there will be specifically branded films that are branded as Elseworlds, right? Where they can tell one-off stories. So, for example, Joker, the new Joker sequel they're doing, Folie à Deux, those are what they're calling Elseworlds films. They are not connected to the overarching DCU. They are another...
They're allowed to exist in their own bubble.
They're allowed to exist in their own bubble. Batman.
Which is a strength.
Right. The Pattinson Batman film, and they're making a sequel to that right now, and they're also making a Penguin series based on Colin Farrell's Penguin from that movie on HBO Max. That is an Elseworlds title.
Interesting.
So while I don't think you'll see Keanu as Constantine in the primary DCU, them doing him as an Elseworlds profile is not out of the realm of possibility. I think if they don't do it soon, I think it won't happen. But Keanu himself wanted to. I know he wants to redo that one.
Oh man, yeah, the Lucifer TV show.
So here's
it's very similar to Constantine.
Now I'm gonna tell you this, Tamagotchi. If you haven't watched it, the Constantine TV show crosses over to the Lucifer TV show.
What? I didn't even know there was a TV show. Why am I so disconnected?
So, the NBC Constantine show, he meets Lucifer, or not meets Lucifer, he interacts with Lucifer from the Lucifer TV show, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that Lucifer is a DC comic that they made into a show.
Because they didn't market it that way. Standalone show, right?
And when they bring the NBC John Constantine into the CW-verse during the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, Constantine goes with John Diggle, who eventually becomes a Lantern, and then the Green Arrow's daughter, to go talk to Lucifer, because Lucifer can get them into purgatory, and Lucifer owes Constantine a favor, because he's the devil, and of course he owes Constantine a favor, because he did that thing for him that one time.
Yep. So why? Okay, so why
it is Universe 666. That is how it is labeled in the CW. Is Lucifer's universe is Universe 666.
Why aren't they marketing these things as comic?
They do. They do to certain groups, and the problem,
like,
we've only got a few minutes left. So if you guys have any topics you want us to touch on really quick, make sure you drop your channel points in there and tell us what you want to talk about. They did.
To certain groups.
No, they did. They just did it on the wrong network. And I don't even want to say they did it on the wrong network, because God, this is so hard.
That's what I was getting at, actually, Pete, is the fact that, like, they kind of don't want to allude to.
So here's the thing.
People knowing it's a DC universe
Shazam movie
film.
came out. Shazam 2 came out last weekend. and it bombed. Its opening weekend. And apparently, now here's the thing, if you look at the critic ratings and the audience scores, it's great. Apparently, everything that I've read and heard about the new Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods, apparently it's freaking amazing.
Just track record and people like that.
I think it's the sus thingy. I think it's the last vestiges of the old DCEU. Right? And I think people
still biting them in the ass.
Well, and I think people know that the old DCEU is dead.
Right.
It's going away.
Right. So they just don't want to.
So they just don't want to mess with it. They killed the universe and released a movie, never get a first shot. Again, part of this I put on the movie-going audience and things like that.
R.I.P.D. was one of my favorites. I remember
such a weird
enjoying.
movie.
Yeah, it was absolutely absurd, and I loved it.
I've done this, and you can go watch old episodes of Identico After Dark on youtube.com/Identico, and I have gone over this 1,000 times. I will die on this hill. What Greg Berlanti and those guys did creating the Arrowverse and how they did it. Again, are there critiques to be made? Please do not misunderstand me, okay? Are there critiques to be made? Absolutely, right? Is it always the best writing in the world? No. Is it always the best acting in the world? No. Are they on a limited budget? So sometimes they're they have a limited special effects budget. So sometimes they have to do some stuff. There's stuff about bottle episodes in there and things like that.
Yep.
It is the most pure form of what I think DC Comics is. And I think it is the best live action on-screen representation I have seen of an interconnected DC universe freaking ever.
Yeah?
They did such a good job with it. And if you go in, again, with the right perspective of, I'm not expecting this to be an HBO caliber show.
Right.
With an understanding of what the budgets are. And
manage your freaking expectations.
Manage your expectations. Yes. I really, really love, thank you, chat, for that. I really love the CW Arrowverse. I watched it for a long time. I've only recently fallen off of it in the last season and a half of Flash, which I have to catch up on. And it's about to end. Flash is in its final season. And I think that will basically be the end of the Arrowverse.
I stopped watching.
It was also the only place we got to see Kevin Conroy as a live-action Bruce Wayne.
Oh.
Okay? Like, they did so much. And here's the thing. Fans talk about, and this is the thing where I get mad, I get frustrated when fans are like, oh, this is crap, respect the source material. You are talking about some people that really loved and respected the source material and the people that came before.
And they also...
When they came to Kevin Conroy and went, live action Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
This was not long before Kevin died. Only about a year or two. They brought back Robin from the Adam West Batman. Obviously, Adam West had already died, so they couldn't bring him. Right? But what's his name? Who played him? I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Dick Grayson.
Well, that's the name of the character. Yes, they did a really good job with a bunch of $10 in a bag of chips. Smallville is what gave them the guts to try to do what they did with the Arrowverse.
Smallville was awesome.
Berlanti really knew how to run shows, and he knew how to backdoor pilots, how to do backdoor pilots, and how to really build hype. And for the people that watched the Arrowverse, again, it's one of those ones that the fan base wasn't huge, but it was really fervent, and the people who liked it really liked it. I am one of those people. Burt Ward, thank you. Burt Ward was in the Arrowverse for just a brief moment. We got a nice Burt Ward thingy, but and actually there's a point where you see Ezra Miller's Flash. Like, this is before all the Ezra stuff came out, but when they were still planning all the Flash stuff. So this was made after Justice League. When they're doing the Crisis stuff, Ezra Miller Flash and Barry Allen Flash, like from the CW-verse, like accidentally speed force their way into the same room, and they're looking at each other like, hey man, what's up? Like a costume.
What's up?
And
yeah.
And then it's one of those like very short moments, but it again,
it's a good nod.
They respect the other people in the space so much. Kevin Smith directed more than a few episodes of stuff in the Arrowverse. And there's some good, and in the ones that he directs, Jason Mewes always makes an appearance.
That makes sense.
Because we need Jay in a Kevin Smith episode. It's really, really, really good. Yes, he was in the opening of the Crisis episode. Somebody else said something I wanted to address, and I can't see it anymore.
Oh my goodness. Use me, chat.
There you go. I was hoping they were going to go Lantern with John Diggle in the Arrowverse. This is also right around the time CW got sold and the whole Warner Brothers merger was happening.
Right.
So a lot of this got caught up in the corporate thing and the fact that the CW has never been profitable. Ever. Literally never. Yes, I'm not going to repeat that on the thing so that I don't return to service, but we had some good Jason Mewes quotes in there, and Kevin Smith is one of the people that inspired me when I was very young. Huge Kevin Smith fan. I think this is the place where you can do somebody. Oh, there we go. I just want to see more supernatural DC adaptations. Yeah, you can. But see, the thing is then this is the thing. You can do experimental stuff like that on networks like the CW.
Yes.
With smaller scale stuff.
Yes.
Right. This is where creators really get to show some neat things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that neat creativity stuff is overlooked.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it comes back to if you are doing something tied with a fandom and you are trying to do something neat and creative, you have to be very careful, right? Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, you just want to be like, blah, creativity, everybody can suck it kind of thing, you know?
And we saw how that worked out for Rian Johnson.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like that, and it does also come back around to like why we can't get Star Wars films made, right? Is because if we are creative and just do it out of creation's sake, then it's just going to, it's not going to be a good time.
They're saying Paramount or HBO would be better so we could get all the greenest. It would have to be HBO because that's who Warner Brothers owns and they own DC Films. They did do that on HBO. They've done it twice now and nobody watched. That's the thing, is that they've made these. They did Swamp Thing on HBO Max. And Pete's looking to be like, this happened?
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
I didn't know.
And it is deep and it a lot about what it is like to be a monster and how to be a hero even when you're a monster.
Well, damn.
Swamp Thing was done, and then what was the other show they did?
We'll have to add that to the list.
Doom Patrol, which had Brendan Fraser in it. Doom Patrol, they did it with Doom Patrol. Do you want to know something about Doom Patrol? No one watched it. Like, Swamp Thing was extremely underrated. Doom Patrol was underrated. And again, Warner Brothers and these companies are greenlighting these projects. You're not watching them.
Right.
Like, and at the end of the day, again, arguing about our post-cast ballistic hellscape later, the fact of the matter is that's the metric by which they have to judge these things, which is
views.
Right.
Which I don't, okay, so I know that we're looking at metrics and you have to have like a specific time frame in which you know, pay attention to who is watching what, but at the same time, like, some of these things end up taking off afterwards, and it's always after they've been killed as well, right? And that it just feels a little unfair that we don't give these things time to kind of like cement themselves into, you know, the people that are going to watch it. We don't give it time to percolate. We don't give it time for people to be like, no, actually, this was awesome. Let me go and get, you know, my 5 other friends to come and watch it. And that's, you know, going to drive views. It's just...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Somebody brought up that WD does a pretty good job with marketing, but there's a limited return on investment in marketing, and honestly, the best marketing for TV shows, and this is why you see HBO, just basically everybody but Netflix, doing the release once a week thing, because they've gone back and realized, and now they've got enough data to show that dumping it all on binge at once doesn't actually help their word of mouth. What helps their word of mouth is water cooler talk. It's, did you watch the episode of Last of Us this week?
No.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I'm saying, you know what I mean, but it's great. Oh, yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that yet. Oh, yeah, go catch up on that so you can talk about it with us next week, right? Like, that's how those shows, that's how Last of Us, we saw it, where it was the first episode did this well the first week, but then the second week it had a bump, and then the second episode had the equivalent bump up because it's word of mouth advertising.
I mean, that's what Game of Thrones was doing too.
Yep. And also community streams like this. This is good. The first 5 minutes of Zoom meeting talk. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely one of the things. Marvel's release slate is not much heavier than it used to be. That's a whole topic in and of itself.
I think it's because we're at 20 years of constant release.
It's not even 20 years. It's actually currently 14. 2008 is when Iron Man 1 came out.
At least 84 years.
Yeah. Marvel is faltering. I know that seems to be the sentiment. I think a lot of that is we're saying it so we expect it to be true, but it's really not. If you look at Phase 4, which again is probably the weakest of the phases, stuff in Shang-Chi was great. I loved Shang-Chi. Spider-Man No Way Home, great, right? Like, wow.
Solid.
What else came out in this phase? God, my brain hurts. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, not their greatest, but was still good. WandaVision was amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
WandaVision was amazing. Falcon and Winter Soldier was probably the weakest show they put out there. Loki was great.
Yep.
Miss Marvel was good. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It was okay. It wasn't the best movie in that franchise, but it was still fine.
I mean, it is lining out like an entire concept that they're then going to jump off of, which is usually when they have those lulls.
Yep. And so I've heard, there's been reporting that Marvel's going to pull back slightly on their release slate. I don't think we're going to know what that looks like until Comic-Con or D23. Same thing with Star Wars. Star Wars Celebration is in April. I'm sure we'll get some announcements then. I liked She-Hulk okay. Again, it wasn't bad. I loved Daredevil in it, but I think they ended it poorly. I don't think they stuck the landing.
You had come in and were very excited about She-Hulk right up until the ending, and then you were like...
It was, the first few episodes were great. And again, the first... first Moon Knight was good. So again, when everybody's like, Marvel's faltering, it's one of those ones where I go, tell me how.
Again, manage your expectations, right? And also allow people to make things. Like, I am really glad that they're fleshing these things out. I feel like we're getting the variety and the, my gosh, my brain is so fried right now.
We only have a couple minutes.
I know. We're getting kind of that, comic shop feel where you look around and you just have millions of stories that you get to read and experience. Like, that's kind of what we're getting from both DC and Marvel right now, is the fact that they're just like, all right, now this arc, now these people, like, and it's pretty cool, especially because it also kind of makes it more accessible.
Eternals was a huge waste of a casted director. Yes and no. Eternals, I don't think we judge fairly because it came out kind of toward the end, like right as theaters were reopening.
Yeah.
Towards the end of COVID. It also simul-released on Disney Plus with the Disney Plus like bonus thingy.
That's what they did to frickin' Black Widow.
Yeah, Eternals was pretty good. It wasn't bad. I think it was a little overstuffed. Speaking of, well, that's never mind. I'm not even going to go into that because that was actually another news story I saw today that relates to Eternals, and I'm just not even going down. Eternals was fine. It wasn't the best movie in the world. It wasn't the worst. Fine.
I haven't seen it.
Again, it's kind of fun. It did have an amazing cast. Half of whom were in Game of Thrones.
Well, and it kind of comes to a question of, like, if we're watching all of these films and these shows, and if we just view them, like, separately from all of the franchise that they are part of and just view them as a film, like, objectively, like, is it good? Did I enjoy watching it? Was it well done? Was the costuming well done? Were they believable as actors? Like, why start shitting on something, because it doesn't fit perfectly into the puzzle piece that you're expecting it to, instead of just being like, honestly, all things considered, this was a movie that I watched and I enjoyed the time while I did it. Will I watch it again? Maybe not, because it felt like a time sink, but I got to experience that. It's cool.
Yep. And again, you are 1,000% right. That is exactly how people should go. And a couple of the movie commenters that I follow, they hold the exact same sentiment as you do.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to look at the films individually. You can go back and holistically look at them as part of the franchise, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
But I think if you, again, that's why when people go like, Marvel's faults here, I'm like, because again, I watch all these films and these shows, and I'm like, objectively, they were well made and do. So I have no complaints, right? Like, it's been a long time since I went to a film, whether it was DC or Marvel, where I walked out and was like, that was a waste of money.
Right.
Like, where I was like, I am thoroughly unentertained.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever had that happen. But I also have the movie tastes of, like, I literally watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, on repeat. So
not just,
when I was
and I
growing
want to
up.
adjust the chat, not just Kumail Nanjiani in Eternals, but jacked Kumail Nanjiani. He was just yoked.
Talk about a transformation.
He's just like, I'm like, holy screw, Kumail Nanjiani got
We don't
yoked.
have time for a steroid discussion, but wow.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That could be a stand-up.
he got yoked for that role. And that's what we'll leave today. Today's stream, we'll just talk about a positive leave-off from Taylor and a good way of looking at the films and media. This goes also for games and books. I think you can do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So I love Taylor's commentary on these games and books. So we'll leave it there.
Oh, it says here on the internet that you haven't liked or subscribed or hit the notification bell. And that if you don't, the IRS is going to punch you in the dink.